calls it a strike to count on Taylor. Reyes fires, swinging a drive, deep left field. It's his way back. Walk the ball. Chris Taylor.
What's up, everyone? Welcome into DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined tonight by Scott Geirman here to talk about the Dodgers' victory over the San Francisco Giants, 5-4. The Dodgers winners in this one. A chance, Scott, to sweep the Giants tomorrow, which is always a beautiful thing, especially when you push your ace back a day and still have a chance to sweep.
Yeah, absolutely. Planned bullpen game. This was one that I know I saw your prediction beforehand, and I was just like, Logan Webb, like, we'll see. Like, you just don't know. He doesn't get a lot of swing, like a lot of whiff. So I was curious. I was excited to see how the Dodgers would do today in the bullpen game. We know how stubborn Dave Roberts has been early on in the season with the pitching. He did it again tonight, but they were able to really grind it out and, scrape out a win, man. It was a sloppy one. Phil Cousy, we'll get into that roller coaster, but it was a good win. Stole one. Honestly,
Absolutely.
Stole win. Yeah, they should have had 10 runs easy in this game, and they made it out.
Yeah, I'm with you. Shout out to everybody joining us live, by the way, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter as well. Shout out to the people listening to this after the fact via podcast, Apple, Spotify, and Google, the DodgerHeads podcast, or, of course, right here on the Dodger Blue 1958 YouTube page. Lots to get into. We're going to get into this game. We'll talk player of the game. We'll talk Phil Cousy. We'll talk Mookie Betts homering again. We'll get into some injury updates on Emmett Sheehan, Brusdar Graterol, Jason Heyward, Walker Buehler, as well as a relief pitcher move that the Dodgers made today, Scott. But let's start with the game that we just finished. You mentioned the Dodgers win this one 5-4, and it kind of starts out in interesting fashion. You mentioned the Giants have Logan Webb on the mound. Logan Webb is one of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball and has been for a couple seasons, second in the Cy Young. So anytime he's up, and it feels like he kills the Dodgers, by the way. So anytime he's pitching, you kind of have, to your point, low expectations as far as, all right, can the Dodgers just kind of get him out of the game quickly and maybe get to the bullpen later? But as we're starting to find out, and maybe we should have known this already about the Dodgers offense, these guys are going to score against anybody. Bottom of the first inning, first shot they get at Logan Webb. Guess what? Mookie Betts single, steals second base. Freddie Freeman RBI single, the top of the lineup, does it again. Dodgers jump out to an early lead. Top of the third, however, the Giants come back. This is a bullpen game from the Dodgers. Ryan Brazier the first, and then Ryan Yarbrough, we knew was going to be the bulk guy. Brazier was great. I was surprised he didn't come back out for the second, but Yarbrough comes in. Shaky to begin with. He gives 2 runs back in the top of the third, but then there's that guy Mookie Betts, bottom of the third, home run, sinker down in the zone that he not even below the zone, Scott, and gets out. To me, that swing right there tells you how freaking dialed in this guy is right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it was a changeup. Honestly, I think it was a changeup right below. Yeah, 3-1 count, gets a changeup bottom. So he just. Yeah, he's lights out. He's not. This is exactly what we want out of the Dodgers. Like someone hangs one, you got to bang them. Teoscar Hernandez has been doing it. Mookie Betts there. He kind of got, he's on a tear to the point that I don't want to say it. He's seeing bowling balls, but he's seeing beach balls, man. Like this, what he's doing every time he goes up to the plate. He's taking, he would have had walks had Phil Cousy been calling a standard baseball game behind the dish. But Mookie Betts is going up there and he's doing damage. Creating offense himself. So this is the same thing that he's been doing. Mookie Betts is a refined focus. We'll get it. I've got a ton to talk about Mookie Betts tonight, honestly. And I know everybody's just incredibly impressed. But yeah, man, Mookie Betts on that 3-1 pitch does not miss, gets the Dodgers even, and just exclamation point. This is exactly what you want out of this top guy right at the top of your starting lineup. Yeah,
Mookie was starting to be mad because his guy Teoscar tied him for the league lead in home runs. So Mookie had to extend that himself. Get back to 5. So they tie the game in the third. And then in the fourth is when the Dodgers kind of put this one out of reach. Max Muncy double, Teoscar Hernandez walk. James Outman, who I want to talk about later. This guy is friggin' lasering the ball everywhere. Can't buy a hit. He gets out. But then Phil Cousy. Gavin Lux is at the plate with runners on first and second. And Gavin Lux takes 2 strikes that are as bad of strike calls as you will ever see. And yet, in a beautiful twist of fate, with 2 strikes, now Gavin Lux has to be aggressive. And what does he do? He gets a ball that was a little low, but he smacks it into center field. RBI single, or RBI double, for him. Kike Hernandez adds a 2-run RBI single. And all of a sudden, we talked about Mookie for the first 2 runs. Now we get Muncy, Teoscar, Lux, and Kike Hernandez for the next 3. Dodgers take a 5-2 lead. Bullpen holds on. Michael Grove, the Dodgers, Dave Roberts made us sweat that one out a little bit in the 8th, but the Dodgers go up 5-2. They give back 2 in the top of the 6th, Ryan Yarbrough again, but then hold on for a 5-4 victory. So, Scott, I'll ask the question that just I think we try and answer when we do these post-game shows, one of our first ones of the year. So thank you, by the way, for hopping on. Tuesday night, Scotty and I will be here doing post-game shows. But there are player of the game is the question I want to ask. And in some ways, it seems like there's an obvious choice. In other ways, I feel like there's a number of different directions you could go. So I'll let you go first. When you look up and down this box score, having watched this game, who's the player of the game for you? Folks joining us live, throw yours in the chat. We'll throw some of those up as we talk through this. But who do you got, Scott, as the player of the game?
I'm going to say Kike.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Kike Hernandez. That, the big two-run single. I think that was a swing that they kind of needed. It didn't break the game open, but it made it, I believe, 5-2 at the time. Yeah. So it put it at a spot where they could take a deep breath. I know everybody's saying Mookie, and I'm right there with you. Like there's absolutely. Get kickstarted. He's setting a tone setter. Absolutely. But for where Kike was at that spot, I think the Dodgers bullpen needed that breathing room today. And that diving catch there, he bailed Vesia out again. And, there's a lot to dive in there and with Alex Vesia, but I think Kike Hernandez, for what he did tonight, really earned his flowers. Like that big swing, like I said, it was at a time where they needed that breathing room, and it provided exactly for me. So it might be number 3 on some people's list. That's okay. But for what Kike did for me, we're going to tip the cap today.
No, I'm with you. To me, Kike Hernandez is I don't want to say clearly because that feels like diminishing, but I don't have to think too hard about this. He gets the big 2-run single that turns a 3-2 game into a 5-2 game. And then he makes genuinely an incredible catch in left field. And keep in mind, this is a guy like Mookie Betts to some degree who's playing everywhere. It's not like he's just taking all of his defensive reps out in left field. So the angle that he's got to deal with to make that full extension catch, Kike's number 1 for me, Mookie number 2 because he gets the home run. But I like some people in the chat, Scott, shouting out Evan Phillips as well, coming into a situation with 2 runners on in the 8th, getting out of it, and then shutting the door in the 9th. So I think those 3 are kind of a clear top 3. I'm looking Freddie Freeman, 3 for 4, quiet 3 for 4, I guess you could say. Did have the RBI single in the first, but he's quietly got a 414 batting average and an OPS of 1100.
Quietly.
Brazier, scoreless inning. Vesia, 2/3 of an inning. Grove, scoreless. We can get into that in a little bit, but I think Hernandez, Mookie, Phillips would be my 3. It sounds like we're probably in agreement in that order.
Yeah, absolutely. And Evan Phillips hadn't pitched in a few days. It was big for him tonight. He looked terrific. Yeah. Like he looked, he was, conviction. He was up there. He didn't let the zone or, missed calls kind of get to him there. He stayed within himself. He's just a cool, calm, collected guy. And I know they showed it on the Sportsnet LA broadcast in the last, since 2021, since he's taken over kind of in the past 2 years, he's been the best reliever in baseball. So more from him. Like it's great. I'm glad that Dave Roberts kind of pulled the trigger on that. There's so many ways that we could have dissected this game, but who knows with a standard strike zone behind the plate, some things swing different ways, but we don't know who was available and who wasn't. But the fact is Evan Phillips came in for a 4-out save. Your anchor in the bullpen did exactly what he needed to do and shut the door. Like there was they didn't need to extend this anymore.
So I want to talk Phil Cuzzy, but let's talk bullpen really quick because if you want to talk huge storylines in the Dodgers season thus far and things that maybe people are starting to panic about, I think the bullpen is one of them. Maybe Dave Roberts' usage of the bullpen could be lumped in there. Obviously, the Dodgers come into this. They make the decision, Scott, that they're going to bump everyone back a day. So Glasnow would have been on normal rest today. They decide, hey, we're going to have him pitch tomorrow. Bobby Miller is going to be on 3 days extra rest for his next start because I believe Yamamoto is going to now jump ahead of Bobby Miller in the rotation. But they decide to go bullpen day. And when you look at kind of recent usage of Dodgers pitchers, Eric Steven tweeted this out. I think this is helpful. But as of today, Tuesday, Brazier pitched on Monday. Joe Kelly pitched on Monday. Dinelson Lamet, who was optioned, also pitched on Monday. So those 3 guys, Brazier started, but the other 2 guys not available. You had Vesia, who threw 31 pitches Sunday. Hudson, who had done it back-to-back Saturday, Sunday. And And then you had Evan Phillips, who hadn't pitched since Saturday, Grove, who hadn't pitched since Friday, and Yarbrough, who hadn't pitched at all. So the point of all this being, Brazier comes in, he gets 8 pitches, and that was the first interesting decision to me. Or excuse me, I don't know if it was 8, but it was a quick first inning. And I'm looking at that and thinking like 12 pitches, 8 strikes, 12 pitches. But I was surprised with how quick and how simple that first inning was, Scott, that knowing the problems that they had in the bullpen that popped up later, that they didn't go back to Brazier there in the second inning. I mean, I know that's kind of a weird thing to nitpick, especially in an opener situation, but given how things transpired, as you look back, like, were you kind of surprised at how they handled Brazier, given how easily he got out of the first inning?
It just kind of all depends on how you want to look at it. You can say it was okay for Ryan Brazier to go back in there for another one, just like they were okay doing with, Michael Grove. But he's a different story. Ryan Brazier, they want to keep him to a 1-inning type of guy. That's kind of how Yarbrough has been implemented. You go out, get the opener, get the first 3 in the lineup. It's just like it is. Jung-Ho Lee, Matt Chapman, and Jorge Soler. You go get them out of the way, let Yarbrough have the back end of the lineup, and you just turn it over. I said to one of my buddies, I was like, if Ryan Yarbrough is pitching for more than 4 innings today, it's because the Dodgers are getting blown out. But he honestly, kind of got into a rhythm. It's hard for Ryan Yarbrough, but to stay with Brazier, I was okay with him just staying in that 3. Let's keep him on like a normal rotation, keep him on just a 1-inning slate, and don't push it with him. There's really just no need this early in the season because he's looked good. I like the repeat positive results for him.
Yeah, and the only reason I'm questioning it is because, to your point, Ryan Yarbrough, we're thinking, I know Dave said they might try and get as many as 5 innings out of him. Clearly that was the goal. He goes 4 and 1/3. He ends up giving four runs up. Then they go to Vesia, who, again, if you go back to this usage chart, Vesia pitched through 1 pitch Saturday, through 31 pitches Sunday, had 1 off day. So they go to Vesia, they get 2 outs out of him. Okay, that's probably the maximum you're going to expect from him. So now we're through 6 innings, and literally the Dodgers have 2 pitchers left. They have Michael Grove, and they have Evan Phillips. And I'll full disclosure the crap out of my takes on Michael Grove, because I like Michael Grove. He has come on our show a bunch of times. He's a good dude. Like, Scott, I just don't get. Every single fan knew how this was going to play out. He was going to throw the first inning, and he was great. 8 pitches, 1, 2, 3. He's had 3 appearances this year, Scott. He has allowed 0 earned runs in the first inning of those 3 appearances. His last 2 appearances before this one, however, they leave him in there for a little bit longer, and he gets shelled. Like, I think it was 4 earned runs against the Padres, 3 earned runs against the Cardinals. This is why when I'm playing the tape backwards, like, every decision they made was assuming they were going to get 2 innings out of Grove. They weren't even warming anybody at the beginning of the second inning. And yet, thankfully, he kind of limits the damage a little bit, is able to get 2 outs. Phillips comes in a little early. I just thought, on one hand, I sympathize with, like, what do you expect them to do? They have a limited bullpen, limited options, and, like, don't want to do the back-to-back thing early on. I just, if you knew, like, we all could have told Dave, if you drew up the blueprint and said, hey, we need 2 from Grove, we'd all say, that's a bad idea, Dave. Let's come up with a different plan A than trying to get 2 innings out of Michael Grove.
Yeah, and when I was writing up some notes for the show, Michael Grove came out and shoved in the 1 inning, and I think I put in there just like, I think it was like 7 of 9 sliders, something like that. Yeah. And he looked filthy. I looked up his, his spin rates and stuff like that, all uptick. Like, he even hit 2,400 some RPM. So he looked great. Yeah. And I was like, this is exactly it. And then he goes back out there again, and it's tough for him to dial that in. And just like you said, we all kind of have seen this. It's just, it's one of the memes and the many memes of what we know about this roster already and what we've seen. But Michael Grove is best suited possibly for a 1 inning appearance. And that's not to say he's any indication of him being a bad starter. It's just somebody's skill set suits them best there. Sometimes short spurts, you find ways. He's not bad. He's just a 1 inning guy at the moment to maximize himself, because we've seen him do it. But it was just really difficult to see him go out there. And then you realize, oh man, he's just got to get these outs. You just got to let it fly. And so when he got that jam shot, to Freddie Freeman, I was like, I took a breath. I was like, oh man, that was a massive out. Like, that was
after 3-0. I believe that was a 3-0 count. He grooves a fastball center, and then gets the foul pop up 3-1. And it was a lifesaver.
Yes, absolutely. And so that's that. So it's sometimes that happens, and we're all begging for, nobody's warming up. I know, but it's just, that's kind of how it goes sometimes. It's tough to understand that teams have a plan of, it's not conceding games, but you have to understand it's early on in the season. We're dealing with guys who have been bouncing between starting pitching and relieving, and they have a plan for them. They know better than us, and we shouldn't act like we know how to manage pitchers better than major league organizations. But it's just tough sometimes to fathom that we're kind of pigeonholed when there's nobody else available. And it's like they could lose a game because of this.
Yeah. And look, the reason that it frustrates me is because we've had Grove on our show, and I've asked him, like, hey, what's it like being a starter one day and then a reliever? And he's been super honest with, like, it's really challenging, because to be a starter versus being a reliever, when you're a reliever, it's like, well, go out there and just throw as hard as you can. But then when you're a 2-inning reliever, what are you supposed to do? Like, you can't really go out there and throw as hard as you can, but you should throw harder than you've been throwing as a starter at the same time. And so it's like this weird balance of trying to find an in-between, and he's trying to learn it on the fly. Again, I joke that, like, they are putting out a blueprint for how to destroy a young pitcher with Michael Grove, because they're not allowing him to either be a starter or a reliever. They put him in a ton of situations where it's like, hey, I know tonight's not your night anymore, but, like, we need to save the bullpen, so you got to eat this one. And then finally, they're like, hey, we know you're really good in 1-inning spurts, but we're just going to keep putting you out for a second inning to see what happens. It sucks as a fan, because, again, none of us were surprised with how that second inning went. But I just to sort of backtrack all of that, the Dodgers were in a hole because of where we are in the season, their philosophy of not wanting to put guys in back-to-back situations. Yes. And I recognize people are like, why didn't they call up so-and-so? All of the guys who have options were guys who pitched tonight. Like, it's like Grove and Vestia. Those are the guys they could send down and bring somebody else back up. But those are the only guys they had available. So is that bad planning? I'll let somebody else determine that. But we did get a super chat a little while ago, and this leads into something I know you want to talk about, Scott. So Carlos, thank you for the super chat. He wants to know, was that Angel Hernandez behind the plate tonight, Scott?
It was worse. This was worse. This was bad, because this is a time when it was both sides. Like, you didn't know. It seemed like it was very right-handed hitter dominant, like outer half, like in the left-hander's batting box. And that's exactly where it was. You saw from the jump, Mookie Betts right away. You're like, oh man. I know they said it on the broadcast. If Logan Webb's going to get these pitches out there, it's going to be a long night. Yeah. But Logan Webb didn't have it. But Phil Cousy kept trying to give it to him every single time. And there were a lot of funky arm slots from the Giants. So it kept helping him out. Patrick Bailey did a fantastic job framing. Or just stealing strikes. So I'll see the stat about him, him stealing strikes, and it'll just be a joke. That'll be just Phil Cousy, because he just had a blindfold on today. So Angel Hernandez, that's being generous of what Phil Cousy was today.
Yeah, there was Will Smith had an at-bat where it's about as demonstrative as you'll ever see Will Smith in the batter's box, because obviously he's got to play the game as a catcher. But twice he turned around and was like, what the heck are we doing? You had Dave on camera dropping F-bombs, screaming at him when Michael Grove's getting squeezed on a 3-0 count, fastball right at the knees. And it's like, we're not going to give you that 3-0. It's like, what are we doing here? And then obviously the Lux one was the most egregious. I mean, these were pitches that were like literally never strikes. It's not like it was a pitch that started in the zone and fell off the table. It's like they were literally never strikes, and yet they were getting them. And I want to be fair by saying, to some degree, the Dodgers were getting the benefit of a couple. Like, Yarbrough got a couple of those on the outside edge. It just felt like in big moments, the Giants, let me put it this way. The Giants were better of taking advantage of how big the zone was than I think the Dodgers were. I don't think it was like unfairly against the Dodgers. I think Logan Webb just happened to be like, oh, if I throw a slider that ends up like 6 inches off and 2 inches down, and you're going to call it a strike. Well, guess what? Logan Webb can throw the same pitch again. And he did to Gavin.
He did multiple times. Yeah. He got the call and he went right back out there. Mookie Betts had to slap it away, and you're like, oh man, he's just praying to get it. So if he just, that's a tough part. That's a tough thing about the human element.
One other guy I wanted to mention, I mentioned it briefly. This guy wouldn't really pop up on the radar unless you were sort of dialed into what was happening. But James Outman, this is a guy who's struggled this season. You look at the slash line, 120 batting average, 267 on base, 120 slugging percentage. It hasn't been great. But his first two at-bats today, Scotty, 106.5 mile an hour line out and then 103-mile-an-hour line out. He goes 0 for 2, and he had like 2 of the 5 hardest hit balls by any Dodgers in his first 2 at-bats. He ends up getting a fortunate like 88-mile-an-hour single, so we appreciate the luck there. But any concern? I know Outman's a guy that I think a lot of people are keeping an eye on. Say, okay, we know rookie season, it was a little bit of a roller coaster. People probably surprised to know his second half was actually better than his first half, but it would be easy to look at his numbers and say, man, this guy's a mess. Look at him. He was always overrated, never was a prospect, etc. Where are you at on Outman and what you've seen from him so far this season?
A lot of tough at bats, a lot of tough outcomes, just like you said tonight. Let me pull up my thing here. I wrote it down. I know I want to give Hershiser some credit, whoever their stats guy is. They mentioned that they had 6 swings. Outman's had 6 swings, 6 exit velos over 100 miles an hour, all for outs.
Crazy.
And he finally finds some grass on like an 80-mile-an-hour swat in the left field in the 6th inning. What we call a little flick. Remember that? That's sometimes it's all it takes. And then he had another one, ropes it, and that's baseball. That's the bad luck of ball. But unfortunately, I'm sure for him, it's like, process, it's working out. He's seeing the exit velocities, but something's got to fall. Things eventually have to fall. We know from his season last year that he's just a streaky guy, and his peak is fine, and you have to deal with it. Outman's a great player. Like, he's fine for who he is. Perhaps we don't know exactly like his ceiling yet. Thank you. I think Matt's running the DB account. Thanks. I appreciate dropping Rick. I don't know. I'm going to butcher that last name there, but Stats Guy is awesome. But I don't want to say that Outman, we've seen the most of him yet, because we haven't seen it for an extended time. It's that he's a roller coaster at the moment, and he falls into these slumps, and it's tough to really get a pure gauge on what he can do and what he's capable of. But the Dodgers believe in him, and we should too. It's just tough because when he's bad, we saw it, and we're like, is he going to be okay? Is he going to be all right? And then he comes out of it again. And then he's just like he's doing tonight. He's hitting rockets, and then they're falling. So this is perhaps just another one of those spots where it's just not falling. That's baseball. But what I am going to do for myself is I'm going to look up, like, after like a month, I'm going to see where he is in terms of being ahead in the count, behind the count. And then I'll kind of get a gauge on, more of what I think about him in the early parts of the season. So it's just tough to say at the moment, but we know who he is. He'll come out of it. Hits will fall. He can hit the ball hard.
Yeah, the expected batting average of his 3 balls in play tonight, 670, 660, and 730. And he goes 1 for 3. So you go 1 for 3 with three batted balls with expected batting average of 650 or higher. Tough luck for him. But again, they won tonight. So that's the bottom line. We've got another super chat here. We appreciate it. Richard, he said, Yarbrough did what the Dodgers needed him to do. Can we now just admit Phillips is our closer? Stevie Wonder couldn't believe how bad the strike zone was tonight. 3 different pieces here. Yarbrough, like, to your point, Richard, you could look at the box score. It'd be easy for somebody to look at the box score and say 4 1/3, 7 hits, 4 earned, 1 strikeout. Like, that's a terrible game from Ryan Yarbrough. But when you step back and you consider the Ryan Brazier piece, what they needed from Michael Grove, where Alex Vesia was at, like, Yarbrough got them 13 huge outs. When he was in his second inning of pitching, I was texting my buddies like, holy crap, we might get like 4 innings of Michael Grove tonight, because Yarbrough was a mess early on. But his ability to kind of settle in even a little bit, even if he gave up 2 more runs later, I felt like was just absolutely massive. It feels like the type of thing that when we get Dave Roberts quotes after the game, he's going to give a huge shout out to Yarbrough and say, hey, that guy went out there and got us outs that we desperately needed tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's Ryan Yarbrough. It was tough considering everything. He did exactly what they needed him to do. 4 runs, 7 hits isn't pretty, but big theme. You need innings. You need outs. It's just, you have to get that somewhere. There's not always an arm just to make it happen. And if you do just put whoever in there, you might be in a bigger blowout, and then you're dealing with a loss. And then we're coming on here post game, and people are saying, why did they put so-and-so? And, why did they throw this game away? And then I would make up an excuse saying, it's April 2nd. But no, the offense is expected to put up runs. You're dealing with 3 of the best players in the sport. You're dealing with you have the best offensive catcher in ball. Guys, like, you play the odds game. You bet on your offense being able to hit, like, no matter who's on the mound. You don't just say, Logan Webb's on the mound, chalk it as a loss, bullpen game. No, it's just not what happens. So Ryan Yarbrough, considering everything, did exactly what they needed to do. Offense picked him up. Deal with it. That's what it is. Like, it's not pretty, but that's how it is.
Yeah. And, hey, where we are in the season, remember, the Dodgers are playing the long game. And so the goal is to have people ready by the end of the season. The goal is not to win every game in the month of April necessarily. Now, I think the counterpoint, which I read, is maybe the Dodgers should start managing like they have a 20-game lead in the division once they actually have a 20-game lead in the division. I think there's some validity to that. There have been times when the division is a lot closer than you think, or home field advantage is a lot closer than you think. And it comes down to man, if they would have pulled Joe Kelly a little bit earlier on Saturday night rather than leaving him out to die, who knows how that plays out. But it's I think there's a lot of moving pieces to it. The second one here, Scott, real quick. I mean, Evan Phillips, you mentioned it. I've long been frustrated when I see top 10 reliever list that doesn't have his name on it. And we know our guy Blake hates relief pitchers as far as believing in them. I think Evan Phillips is as close as Blake will ever come to trusting a Dodger reliever ever again in his life. But I mean, you want to talk about a guy stepping up. You could tell they didn't want to go to him in the 8th. And then they realized they needed to. He warms up quickly, by the way. Was it late night Lamont, our guy? What'd he do? One pitch, Scotty? Is that what he got in the 8th inning before he grounded out softly?
I saw rollover. That was so good. I was like, oh man, give me a break, Lamont.
Yeah.
Give me a break.
Yeah,
hate this
I
dude,
know.
Man. He's got to be on the hierarchy of hated. He's Angel Pagan for me.
Phillips goes out and gets 4 outs in a big spot on a night when they probably hated the fact that they had to go to him in the 8th, but no issues. This guy, I mean, he's incredible. Evan Phillips is incredible.
Yes. Yeah. He's one of the best. He's continuing to be one of the best. And he's a bargain. He's still, I believe, in arbitration years, correct? Yeah. So what a find. What an absolute find. I know Blake is upset with relievers. Every time he goes to bed, he wakes up, he's relief pitchers. But yeah, he's the big consistent for us. Back end guy. I think we all know he's the closer. That's just how it is. But it's just that the Dodgers are in so many situations where they're not in a safe situation because run differential just puts them in a spot where they don't always need that. So he doesn't pitch as many. He'd be on more lists if the Dodgers didn't blow so many teams out and put themselves in a spot where it's we don't need to use Evan tonight. They don't, it's just how it is. So he's a top. He's probably the best reliever in ball. Let's be honest.
He's one of them. That's for sure. 2 more years of arbitration after this one for Evan Phillips. So shout out Andrew Friedman, absolutely cooking when it comes to signing Evan Phillips. Let's get to some news and notes from the Dodgers before we get to some questions here. The big sort of ad, Scott, of the last 24 hours is they added a left-handed reliever named Nick Ramirez. People are going to be thrilled. Left-handed reliever, Scott, added to the 40-man roster. Matt Gage was released earlier in the day. Brusdar Graterol, who we'll talk about, moved to the 60-day IL. Nick Ramirez added from the Yankees. Here's a little bit of his bio. A 34-year-old left-handed relief pitcher acquired for cash considerations. He was DFA'd by the Yankees earlier this week, so they get a little something. Now, I'm going to give you 2 choices, Scott. Do you want me to tell you all the good things about Nick Ramirez or all the worrisome things about Nick Ramirez first?
Let's go with worrisome things, and then we'll recap it with something good.
Okay, worrisome things about Nick Ramirez. He's had 3 seasons in the major leagues. Those 3 ERAs, 5.91, 5.75, 2.66. He had a 1.23 whip last year. So none of those numbers are great. 3.87 expected ERA, pretty decent. So we'll give him that. He's in the 4th percentile for fastball velocity last year. His average fastball velocity, 89.1 miles an hour. His strikeout rate is really bad. His whiff rate is really bad. Probably not surprising when I tell you he throws an 89 mile an hour fastball. And before you get excited about him being a left-handed relief pitcher, lefties hit 308 against him last year. Okay, that's the worrisome side of our guy, Nick Ramirez. Here's the positive side. He had a 2.66 ERA last year in 40 innings. That's pretty freaking good. 3.87 expected ERA. We'll take that. I talked about all the percentiles that were bad. Exit velocity, walk rate, hard hit rate, barrel rate, ground ball rate, all elite numbers from this guy coming over from the Yankees. For his career, he has been better against lefties. He has a 2.98 ERA career at AAA in 200 innings. So that's kind of the biggest sample size. And last but not least, he's got an option year remaining. So this is the guy the Dodgers add to the mix. I guess I'll phrase it to you this way. Is this a guy who's going to be on the Dodgers in 4 months, Scotty? Or is this a guy that's going to be on the Dodgers, get called up? I guess he's got an option year, so there's some flexibility. But is this guy on the 40-man roster at the end of the year?
Yes.
All right. So there's some belief.
Just because it's like, and if he's not, then what they thought they saw in him actually wasn't like something that they can actually capitalize on, because there are things like if the Dodgers bring in somebody with like this with they take projects like somebody just said, they take these, they find things that they like in these relievers, and if he's able to generate soft contact, which he does, like Nick Ramirez does generate a lot of soft contact, so take that for what you will. So let's see what they have. They're able to put him in AAA. He has an option year, so get him in there. Anything else? Like I just want to gloat about, not even gloat. I want to talk about how I wish Justin Wilson was here. I just, if we're to this point, like you're our guy. He should have been our guy. Like he's done fine, and Justin Wilson should be here. But Nick Ramirez, I think he'll be there. They control wise, soft contact. There's something they like. His sweeper and high spin rate. There's something they like. They just have to find out maybe to, reduce his sinker usage, something like that. It gets banged and figure out a way to, maybe he just goes up there and throws changeups and sweepers, and we might see that.
Yeah. I mean, look, the Dodgers are going to sign and add like 10 of these guys between now and the end of the season. And some of them are going to be Phil Bickfords, who are like serviceable, usable guys for a couple of years. One of them, you hope, is Ryan Brazier or Evan Phillips. And a bunch of them are going to be guys that you've forgotten ever pitched for the Dodgers because they were here for like a week and then they were gone. This is just the latest one. I would say you can look at the 2.66 ERA and be like, that's awesome. Keep in mind, he's a 34-year-old left-handed reliever who throws 89 miles an hour. So limit expectations a little bit. I don't think they found the left-handed Evan Phillips here, but it's a dart throw. And this is what Andrew Friedman does. So Nick Ramirez added from the Yankees. Some other news and notes real quick, some injury updates. I mentioned Ramirez's spot on the roster was opened up because Brusdar Graterol transferred to the 60-day IL. He started the year on the 15-day IL with right shoulder inflammation. This after his injury was reported as a hip injury. Dave says, quote, he is a ways away, but he is throwing long toss. May 18th, kind of the earliest date for Brusdar Graterol. Are you starting to get concerned? I mean, when you go from hip injury to shoulder injury to 60-day IL, I can see the trajectory where that's bad. The positive spin would be, well, he just needs a full spring training, and that's a month from now, which is the 60-day IL. They need the 40-man spot, yada, yada, yada. Like, are you concerned, or it's April, who cares?
A little bit of both. I think they just might need some more time, and the 60-day just provides them with some leeway. They, just like we see, they feel like they have enough, might just need more time. And that's all. If they don't feel they need to rush him back, let's get him right, figure out what's going on. And it's a little bit of both. I'll say it's more on I feel like he's okay. Like it'll be all right in the long run.
Emmett Sheehan, the other guy, recently transferred to the 60-day IL. Again, May 18th, the earliest date either of these guys can come back. I would say, Scott, I'm less concerned about Emmett Sheehan simply because I think there's an innings limit here, and I don't think they were going to try and sort of burn through a bunch of his innings in April, especially when they've got guys like Gavin Stone and Bobby Miller already in the rotation. I'll admit it started out, I feel less confident that he's fine now than I did like 3 weeks ago, because it felt like, they're just making stuff up. And now it's like, well, I don't know. There might be something there. But where are you at on sort of trying to read the tea leaves here with Emmett Sheehan?
Yeah, Emmett Sheehan's different. Like for me, I'm a little more concerned with Emmett Sheehan, honestly. Starting out, what they say, total body soreness, something like that, and then it went bizarre, right shoulder soreness, and then forearm inflammation. The stuff that you never want to really hear about from a pitcher, especially with him, or any young arm who's got a ton of life. So it's I'm more concerned there. But to your point about limiting this, they want to get ahead of it, kind of analyze where he's at, let it calm down a bit, and evaluate. And the worst case scenario is that we don't see him for some time, which would be super unfortunate because we are all fans of Emmett Sheehan. So hopefully this is just a blip, and they're able to shut him down, figure out what's going on there. But again, 60-day just allows them to buy themselves more time there and really analyze it and with no expectation, and they can make roster moves accordingly. So it's just a matter of 40-man flexibility and go from there.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. And look, this almost feels wrong to say out loud, but like if there's a year for Emmett Sheehan to like get his body right, this would be the year, because you're expecting 3 more guys to come back in in the next 3 or 4 months. They've already got 5-ish guys already in the rotation. So I would much rather Emmett Sheehan be ready for 2025 than try to, sort of patch together some season of mixed reviews of health-wise in 2024. A couple other injury updates here. Jason Heyward, scans on his back came back negative, according to Dave Roberts, was not available tonight. They're going to make an injured list decision on him tomorrow. That one's interesting to me, Scott, only because who gets the call if Jason Heyward goes to the injured list? Miguel Vargas hit a massive grand slam tonight to like the deepest part of left center field. Andy Pages had the huge spring training. Do you think one of those guys is the first guy to get the call up if Heyward were to go on the injured list?
It's going to be Taylor Trammell.
Okay. Talk me through it.
And it's not going to be the popular thing, but that's who it is. That's what it will be. I know everyone wants to say Paez, like it's easy. Miguel Vargas, Taylor Trammell. We don't know how long Heyward will be. If it's just a week, then you call up the guy that Taylor Trammell hasn't not been productive in Major League Baseball. His AAA stats in the PCL are fine, but hitter friendly stuff there. Part like league adjusted, you have to understand that he's just 920 OPS in AAA last year, but there could be something there. But in MLB, he hasn't been pretty. 37% strikeout rate. But if Heyward is out a week, guys, like they're going to call up just him and get a body up there, because you don't want to burn an option on Paez now just because that's happening. Because if Paez comes up and hits, then you have to find a spot for him, and I think they would prefer to get Paez with more of a runway. And just having Taylor Trammell come up just to fill a slot for the time being. They have enough to rotate around him where they might ask him to start, 3 games, maybe tops 2. So it's an easy thing. I want to see Paez, but it's just not what the Dodgers will do. You don't burn an option year for a week in Major League Baseball. It's just not what you do.
Yeah. That was the move, by the way, adding Trammell. Claiming him off of waivers, Matt Gage getting designated for assignment. That was kind of the move there. Trammell, 26-year-old, former first-round pick, I believe, former like top prospect type guy.
By the Reds, right? Something like that. Reds.
Yeah, originally drafted by Cincinnati out of high school. There you go. He hit 168 combined over 3 seasons with the Mariners at the major league level. Hit 130 last year. Hit 21 home runs at AAA though. So who knows? I mean, first round pick, like these are the types of guys we've talked about on this show before. If you're going to take a dart throw on a guy, give me the guy who used to be a top prospect. Give me the guy who was a first round pick out of high school, because the tools are in there somewhere. And if you can unlock him, bam, you've got something. And if not, he's back on waivers in 2 weeks when Jason Heyward comes off the injured list.
And then if there's a move that needs to be made for an outfielder, and like if Heyward has something more serious going on, then then Trammell won't be the guy. That's not it. Then you say, all right, Pons, here's your time. Miguel Vargas, let's start out that left field experience. So you saw like tonight, Kike Hernandez can play left field, but it's better suited to be able to move him around. I know I feel he's best suited in the outfield, but that could be a spot where Andy Paez could come up if there's something more serious with Jason Heyward, which I hope not, because that's just another left-handed bat that they need. But that's the avenue, everybody, just to appease the chat, just to appease everyone who wants to see, just like me, I want to see a top prospect have his run, but that avenue has to be there. You don't just jam that in and make it happen. The spot has to open up. So if Heyward goes down for some bit of time, Paez would come up and provide a spark. He deserves it. He's earned it. He bounced back really well. So if anyone's looking for a slot there, it'll be if Jason Heyward has more of a serious injury and he needs to miss time. Yeah,
and I guess I didn't even realize. I mean, Trammell doesn't have options, so he has to be be the guy. Like he has to be on the major league roster. And if Heyward doesn't go on the injured list, I don't even know how that works. I guess he must be going on the injured list. So
if Heyward will go on the injured list, if Trammell will be there, and if once that's up, unless Trammell's hitting 500 and doing something crazy, his stint will be it'll be over with after that.
Yeah, which is, I guess good and bad for him, depending on how you look at it. Last update here, Walker Buehler has the rehab start. I joked on Twitter, this was a beauty is in the eye of the beholder start. If you wanted to be rose-colored glasses guy on Walker Buehler, you could say, hey, look at his velocity. Like it's his first time pitching in 22 months, and he's topping out at almost 96 mile an hour. if you want to be glass half full, the fastball, or glass half empty, excuse me, the fastball average velocity is not where it needs to be. He gives up 3 earned runs in 3 1/3. I think the most important part is he pitched in a game for the first time in 22 months, which feels like a really big thing. Dave Roberts has indicated he's going to have probably 3 more starts. His next one just announced is going to be Saturday for Oklahoma City. So, I mean, I'm of the belief that, like, in your first start back in 22 months, Scott, you can't really do anything to make me worried. You can do something to make me excited, but they're not really focused on results or process. It's just getting out there and throwing. It's like the first spring training start. Nobody's looking at your ERA on, like, February 29th and saying, like, oh shoot, rough first start in the old Cactus League for James Paxton. It's like, well, whatever, who cares? So I guess I'm just the velocity is the one thing I'm looking at, and then I'm going to keep tracking, but it was the first start in 22 months.
Sure. Yeah, I know. Where I stand on it. It's not that I'm pessimistic about Walker Buehler. It's that projecting where I feel he'll be, like, from what we see about when he was at his peak and when he was one of the top pitchers in Major League Baseball, his fastball spin was just way higher than what he showed. But again, like you said, this was his first time starting in quite a long time. So the fact that he made it through it says much more about his road back. And I'm excited for him. I hope he makes it back and stuff ticks up. But when you really look at the, advanced metrics on what he was putting out there, and aside from his velocity, I like I told you, I think we texted in our chat that I couldn't care less if he's throwing 90, but his fastball has unbelievable spin.
Yeah.
Then I'm fine. But I still need to see some uptick there. I hope he doesn't overthrow when he gets to that point and he doesn't see those results, because I think that's a worry that we all have. But I do believe in his compete. Shout out Dave. I do believe in his ability to go out and pitch, because he's not just a thrower, he's a pitcher.
Yeah.
So that is something I'm looking forward to there. But we'll see what develops over the next couple of starts, and we'll see him in the major leagues this year. We will. So I'm excited for it. I'm a fan, and we all are. We just have to see. There's some boxes I need to check personally before I'm like, he's back and he can be a big piece of the rotation, where I'm comfortable saying that he's someone that they can rely on in like a big spot to get big outs.
Totally. Absolutely. Let's get to some questions here. If you've got one, throw it in the chat, all caps questions. I'll get to one that my buddy texted me because I think it's worth talking about. We haven't mentioned Shohei Otani, 3 for his last 20 over these last 4 or 5 games. Nobody's worrying. Nobody's panicking. Okay. I want to be abundantly clear. I'm not even going to ask the question of, are we worried about Shohei Otani? Because the answer is an unequivocal and absolute and immediate no, we're not worried. But are you seeing anything with Otani in this 3 for 20 stretch? Tonight he was 0 for 3. I believe this is a 5-game stretch. We're now going back. Like, it doesn't, he's hit the ball hard a handful of times in that stretch. Like, is there anything you're seeing, or is this just classic? Everybody's going to have a bad 5-game stretch at some point. Incredibly talented player, but he's just in a spot where it's just not clicking for him. He's swinging hard. When he connects, it's a rocket, because that's just who Shohei Otani is. He's always, like, when he hits the ball, it's going to be a hard hit baseball. Unless he rolls over, which you can't really help that. But he's having the extra base stuff, has some doubles mixed in here. But to your point, he's not putting it all together. He still doesn't have that one big home run. We talked to Juan Toribio this morning. It was fantastic. Blake and I sat down with him for an hour. I hope everyone has the opportunity to check that out. He might just need that one swing. And what I'm curious to see is this weekend, and kind of the whole team, is Shohei Otani probably hearing his first round of boos, big time, like an entire Wrigley Field, like all of the fans booing him for the first time. How's he going to respond to that? Toribio had some good answers there. I'll leave everybody on a cliffhanger to go check that out. But it's worth noting that he's struggling, and at this point, to his standards, absolutely. He's an incredibly productive player who's not having that output in a very odd time for him in his big league career. He's having to navigate without Ippei around and dealing with all the media of that, and he's pressing. Yeah, people are saying absolutely he's pressing without a doubt. And it's just going to maybe take one swing. That would be the easy thing, but he might need a few. He might need a month really get to roll into this, but we have time. He has time with Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts
ripping the cover off the ball. They're able to absorb this and be okay. Like he's in a spot where he's not the linchpin in the offense. He's a piece of it, which is remarkable to say.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, I think like we can obviously acknowledge all of the distractions off the field that he's having to navigate. You mentioned it. Like, not only does he have a new interpreter, his best friend's not with him. He's got the added media sort of availability that he's got to take into account. I think all of those things deserve to be mentioned. But like the point, one thing to point out is he's still hitting the ball hard. Like last night, for example, he goes 1 for 4. In his 3 balls that he put in play, all 3 were hard hit. 95.6 mile an hour fly out, 109 mile an hour ground out. He had 109 mile an hour ground out. It's like one of the hardest hit balls the Dodgers have had in the last like 5 years. Okay. Like he's hitting the ball hard. I think tonight, both balls that he put in play were like 90 plus mile an hour, borderline hard hit balls. So it doesn't look super pretty, but as long as the contact is there and the quality of contact is there, that's the type of stuff you can look at and say, at some point, this is going to work out for him. So those are my thoughts on Otani. Couple more questions here. Hawaiian Kira, she said, saw on Twitter, what nickname would you give the first 4 hitters? All-Star Diamond Kings. Scott, I love that she's including my guy, Will Smith, in the top 4, by the way. We're not just going to top 3, top 4. I mean, I'm trying to think of famous nicknames with a 4 in it. 4 Horsemen is one that doesn't feel appropriate. Doesn't jump off the page, but anything pop to mind for you, Scott? You're a big nicknames guy.
Big nicknames guy. You have to. Mookster is an easy one, but I'm all about it. I'll get back to you. Kira, I'll definitely check in with you on that, but yeah, something has to get cooked up, but I think we have to wait until Otani really gets rolling. And then I'll start diving in the lab, and then people should hop in the DMs and really hit me with some good ones, and we'll see if we can get some momentum there. Yeah.
If you've got any ideas, throw those in the chat, and we'll try to get to some of those tonight. Ozzy, we all know Grove is a good 1-inning reliever ever, but has Grove accepted that maybe he doesn't want to do that role long-term? Look, we've had interviews. If you want to go back and check out our last interview with Michael Grove, he was super honest and frank about being a reliever, being a starter, and kind of the yo-yo between. From my perspective, Scott, I think he could be a really effective 1-inning reliever. Like you saw the slider that he's got and how nasty that is. He can throw a fastball 96-ish miles an hour. And even, one of the things he had talked about was against lefties, that cutter that's able to get in on bats, which you saw tonight. That was the pitch that he jammed the guy with is the ability to throw that cutter and get it off the barrel was his language to me. And so I actually I know people crap on this guy and I feel like I'm constantly defending him and people are saying, look at how bad his ERA has been. Am I crazy, Scott, for thinking that Michael Grove, if he was just told tomorrow, hey, you're going to be a relief pitcher, we're going to expect the same thing from you that we expect from Ryan Brazier, which is like 90% of the time we just want you to get 2 or 3 outs. I think he'd be effective in that role. Am I crazy?
No, you're not crazy. I think we're all calling for him to just be a 1-inning guy. Like that's what we want. That's what we want. Everybody sees it, but him, but them.
But the one guy that matters.
Yeah, so it's just that you don't have to defend him. We in baseball, the nice thing about it is we can directly see the results. Yeah, you can't really hide from that. And you can only be unlucky for so long, and then it'll all catch up to you. You can only escape from bad results for so long, and then we see what things really are. Yeah. Sometimes you just have to understand, and some players are hard-headed, and that's a good thing. You want that out of baseball players. You want that out of athletes in general. You want them to be stubborn and want to be in a spot where it's challenging for them. Yeah. But we know we've kind of seen what Michael Grove is when he's condensed into a 1-inning slot. He can be terrific. That slider can play way up. He's got the velocity to air it out. And then he can be, that's just another piece. It's just tough. It's just tough when he's put out there again and then the results go sour. And then we're like, why is he back out there? Why is he even on the 40-man roster? Why is he on the major league roster? Get somebody else in here. Where's Kevin Quackenbush? Stuff like that. You get some wild takes going on. Yeah. But it's just, players are who they are. We see what it is. We can look at the data from 1-inning spurts from Michael Grove, and he's been fine. Yeah, it's just that's where the inflated ERA comes from, and from some pretty bad starts, like some blow-up ones, and that's where that comes from. Yeah, no, I was joking with some friends the other day. Is like he had 2 starts last year where he gave up like 8 or 9 earned runs, and again, you go back and watch those starts. He's the only guy where it's like
he's totally toast after 2 innings. Like, it's just not his day. He's at 4 earned through 2 innings. And guess what? They're like, hey, Michael, part of the reason you're pitching is because we need you to eat some innings. So we know you've given up 6 already, but we need you to go back out there until it gets even worse, And then all of a sudden the ERA goes sideways. Jay, winning feels good. 6 years for the Angels has been poop. Yep, I know, Scott, you contribute over on the Angels side of things. It's more fun to be a Dodger fan than an Angel fan, huh?
Yeah, man, I'll be honest. I haven't done an Angels article in quite some time, but it's more fun to be a Dodgers fan. Absolutely. Winning feels great. And I'll be honest, like any Angels fans tuning in or fans just of Otani that have, followed Shohei while he was with the Angels. This is like Dodger fans are kind of like, we haven't even seen the best of what they can do yet. It kind of feels that Otani not clicking at the moment. It's like, I saw somebody mention in the chat earlier, they're winning without Otani being Otani, like playing at his best. So let's hold on. And now they're playing great baseball. They're playing solid ball. Like, you see parts of the lineup that are coming together. Yeah. And it's going to be some scary stuff once you really see Shohei Otani click into gear.
Yeah. Some more questions here. Howie Land, will the team score more runs than last year? 906 runs the Dodgers scored last year, which was the most in franchise history dating back since 1953, I should say. The only 4 seasons where they scored more were in 1889, 1892, 1894, and then 1953. And yet, 8 games in a row to start the season with 5 or more runs. 5, by the way, has long been my number, where if the offense doesn't score 5 runs, it's the offense's fault we lose. The offense has scored 5 runs in 8 straight. I believe it's the first time in franchise history. I'm leaning yes, Scott, that they're going to score more runs this year because you throw Otani into a lineup. We're seeing what we've seen from Mookie Betts. Will Smith looks better than he looked last year. And I just think the development, I believe in the bottom of the lineup. We've had some more questions about that, but if you gave me 906.5, I'm taking the over.
I'm going to take the over. I'm going to say with you. You're going to kick it into gear. Yeah, I'm with you.
All right. Let's see. Get some more questions here. Sorry, we're scrolling back through the chat. Some questions. Some of the questions, if we kind of touched on some of it, I'm going to try and pass just because we're short on time and we've got a bunch of questions here in the chat. I saw one, and I apologize. I think it was from David asking about concern about the bottom of the lineup. Where are you? I mean, the lineup came through tonight. It was Gavin Lux and Kike Hernandez who had 3 RBIs, the go-ahead RBIs tonight. Are you concerned about that? Outman, Lux, Kike, whoever they have in the mix down at the bottom there?
Not really. Like, we've talked about this a ton. Like, not everybody in the lineup is going to be an ultra consistent player. Yeah. Like, that's the goal. But role players are role players. Kike Hernandez came up tonight. Things will average out. Outman, I'm not worried about. He's a roller coaster. Gavin Lux, I am worried about. That's just how it's going to be until he finds some level of consistency. But I think I'm okay with the bottom 3. I think there's some things to be said about the collection of talent they have down there. I really would I think I'd feel much better if Jason Heyward was out there starting and that he was having the same success against right-handed pitching as he did last year, because he's a force. That's the reason why he got signed. I think Lux I wanted him to be the 9-spot hitter because he can be another leadoff man, but we know how that experience is going. He had some pluses tonight, a couple walks. So let's build on that and go from there. Worried. Like, if you want to ask me like a 1 to 10, I'm going to say like a 2. It's okay. Like, guys, like, they're putting up numbers right now. James Outman just has to regulate. He has to find something. He has to take a step forward big time for me. Like, I really do need to see that because he's got all the talent in the world to make that happen. We're just missing Jason Heyward right now. But if you want to ask me about Chris Taylor, I'm concerned about Chris Taylor.
Yeah,
I am. I'm
for a year and a half.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah. I mean, bottom of the lineup, I'm just looking through. Outman, Lux, and Kike reached base 5 times tonight. So, I mean, in basically 12 at-bats, they reach base. Lux goes 1 for 2 with 2 walks, 1 for 4 from Outman, 1 for 2 from Kike. That's fine. Like, I mean, if those guys are going if you're getting 1 for 4, it's down at the bottom of the lineup.
It's 11 o'clock.
Fine.
It's 11 o'clock and we're doing this, guys. Like
Yeah.
when I see it in the chat, I know Harley's going off on us. Like I'm with you. I'm with you. Let's be realistic, guys. Let's be realistic. Let's let things figure themselves out, and players are going to play, and they'll find the roles for them, and they'll see what platoon splits create a large enough sample size. Like Kike last year was reverse splits, and maybe we start to see them capitalize on that. So who knows? Like it's just we don't know how things are going to go. It's way too early to do any of this about panicking about how the bottom third of the order is going. They should just be concerned about, are they playing like consistent baseball and not having massive mental errors?
Yeah. I mean, the question is more like the question I think, Scott, that we're asking is like, do you believe in Gavin Lux? Do you believe in James Outman? It's not like, oh shoot, they went 1 for 4 tonight, should we panic? It's like, do you believe in Kike Hernandez and Gavin Lux and James Outman and Jason Heyward?
The collection of the group?
I'm not asking you to say, hey, you saw 4 at-bats tonight, make like a 9-month prediction about these guys. I'm saying, like, forget what they did tonight. Do you believe in those guys over the course of a season to be guys that are productive in the spots that you're asking them to be productive in?
Yes, I do.
Yeah,
I really do. I think that they'll find those spots for these players. Totally. No, they will. I really do. Like they have Kike Hernandez. There's enough experience there that they'll be able to find this. Like for Chris Taylor's flubs, he's had moments where we've seen him come right back to the mean and understand why he's stayed around. But he's been I know somebody says MIA for quite some time. But I believe in Kike Hernandez. I think Miguel Rojas is a fine platoon on the infield. Gavin Lux, we've just TBD big time on him. Yeah. That's all I have to say.
My thing is, like, keep in mind, we're talking about the 7, 8, 9 hitter. Like, what people, I don't understand. I feel like people hold them to the expectation as if they're the 1, 2, and 3 hitter. It's like, if these guys are putting up OPSs of like 720, that's like what you would, that's fine down at the bottom of the lineup, especially depending on who it is. Like Lux, you want the bat to play up a little bit more because maybe you have questions about the defense, but the rest of these guys, like, we don't need them to be 800, 850 OPS guys with the 300 batting average. Like, we just need them to not be Austin Barnes and Miguel Rojas with the bat in their hands. And like, we're going to be fine. And I'm with you. Chris Taylor is concerning because we're talking about a big sample size. I think Kike Hernandez, platoon stuff, you talk yourself into the double hernia surgery that he's a healthy guy now. Like, you could talk yourself into it. I believe in Heyward. I believe in Lux. I believe in Outman. So ultimately that's where I land. We did get another super chat here. Ozzy, will Lamet stay on the roster? I realized I messed this up last time. Lamet is still on the roster. It was your guy, Nabil Chrismat, that was sent down. That was sent down, not Lamet. So I had that one backwards. But this was a guy, when they signed him to a minor league deal, I think we did a show early on, and it was like, are any of these non-roster invitees interesting? And Lamet was always the guy that when he would pitch against the Dodgers, I was like, I don't know, it feels like there's something here. I know he's a journeyman. He's not going to amount to much, but I mean, we're talking about relievers, whatever. Ramirez. I already forgot the guy's name that they signed today. They traded for from the Yankees. Nick Ramirez. I mean, like, Lamet, to me, Scott, falls in the same bucket as Ramirez. Like, sure, maybe. Or maybe he's gone in a month, and like, I couldn't tell you which one it's going to be.
It's 4th team since 2022. So it's, I really don't think so. I don't know. He's 31 now. And making me feel old that we like started hearing about this guy. I don't think he'll be on the team long term. I didn't see much of him, and if they do, then I'm not gonna act like I know how to evaluate pitchers from that sense. But I think he's an arm. They need these. But man, why'd you have to bring up my guy Nabil? I was at work. I was at my other job, and I was seeing this. I'm like, he shoved. Like he was dealing. So that's one that I really thought he could stick. But perhaps like the Dodgers do these things. We talked about it. There's opportunities elsewhere. He's just it's a numbers game. It's a crunch. So is he going to be able to pitch? I'm sure he'll get picked up somewhere else. Hopefully he slides through waivers, but and they'll be able to keep him around. But it's just how it is. I don't expect to Ozzy, to your question, I don't expect him to be here long term. I'm spacing out. We're going on an hour. I was up at 8 a.m. doing that. I'm gassed, guys. I'm sorry.
You're complaining about getting up at 8 a.m.?
I was up till 4 the night before. I was doing some other work, so we're on a crunch. Sorry, guys. I'm spent.
Yeah, I'm looking at. By the way, it's I found some nicknames with the number 4 in it. How about I like 4 score? How about that? It's like an ode to, I think score means like 20 or something, but we're talking about scoring. A lot of runs, 4 score, top 4 guys at the top. I'm just throwing some ideas out here. Some ideas. We got, I know. Well, I'm just thinking it's got to be be something with the 4 seasons. Like, it's like, that doesn't make any sense to me. I love this. This is like, this one just
4 seasons. If they don't show up in the playoffs, call them the 4 seasons because they're asleep. Oh, man.
There you go.
Man, don't
See?
do this. Why'd you toss that out there? That's terrible.
You tossed it out there, not me. You know. Yeah, I don't know. I got what? It's either Fab Five, but they don't. Who's the fifth?
Teoscar, what do you show some respect?
We want to talk about small sample sizes. I mean, let's be. You can't say, hey, we're not rushing to conclusions about a lot of these guys, and then say Teoscar belongs in the same conversation as Otani and Freddie Freeman.
He's on par with. He's doing what he did last year. I'm just saying, he's the bat. He's the bopper they needed.
No, I'm with you. I'm not anti. I'm just saying, like, we can't.
I'm not doing
small sample size on everybody else, and then say like, oh, Teoscar has arrived.
I'm purely saying that he's just slugging. Like he's performing exactly like what, like, I mean, he's performing above like averages, but he came in as a slugger and he's slugging, doing exactly what it is. So it's cool to see that. Right, immediate returns.
I'm with you.
What else we got?
Okay, Howie Land. Last question here. Do we need automated balls and strikes? Are you a robot umps guy, Scott?
I think I don't know. I'm gonna butcher this on like the exact like which system they currently have, but I feel like the challenge system would be cool. That would be hilarious. So say this, you get, I don't know what it is. Somebody, please, I hope somebody in chat can toss this out to me immediate so I can have a better answer to it. But say you get like one challenge. What is it in at bat? I think, say Phil Cousy is the umpire and it's an 0-2 count and he calls one 5 inches off the dish and you replay it and it's an auto ball and you don't have a challenge again and you take the next pitch that it's a complete ball and he calls a strike, the same exact thing. That'd be wild. That's how I feel like. I think they need the challenge system. Could be cool, but it would create some funny moments. Yeah, Howie, exact same thing. But I think that would be good. The tough thing about a replace like somebody to the tennis system, like that type of thing, somebody pull up the name immediately, but that would be different. Clipping the zone, like we've seen that, the 3D plane, like how things go there. It's just, that would create for some really odd strike calls. And I don't know if we're ready for that. I really don't think we're ready for that. But I mean, they've been testing things in the minor leagues for quite some time and different variations of that. And MLB has hit on a lot of their things they've implemented so far. And I think they'll do it again and we'll be okay with it. But am I a robot umps guy, Jeff? Are you a robot umps guy?
Oh yeah, 100%. I
want him to get it right. Like they can keep some human element in it, but get it right. Like this tonight was really bad, but I don't know if we're ready for it.
Yeah, I'm just like the point of the game is to get it right. Like the people that argue for the human element in these types of things, like I sort of understand the sentiment a little bit, but it's like, so you just like being able to say every once in a while that the umpires decided a game? Like why? We all care very deeply, more than we all should, about this game that people are playing. Here we are, as you said, at 11:20 p.m. on April 2nd, talking about a baseball game with the Dodgers and the Giants. And yet, like, the reason we do is because we care. And if we care this much, why would we want a guy like Phil Cousy behind the plate putting Gavin Lux in an 0-2 hole because he's an idiot, because he doesn't know what he's watching? Like, that's crazy to me. So anyways, looking it up, I believe this is for 2024. Home plate umpires in AAA, they call pitches. Batter, pitcher, or catcher can appeal the strike call. Then they have an automated system that says call stands are overturned. Each team gets 3 unsuccessful challenges per game. Successful challenges don't count.
Per game?
Per
game. Give me a break. Get me out of here. Nah, no way. Give me full. If it's per game, I'm out. Nope.
That's too many or too few?
That's too few. That's wild. Per game.
3 unsuccessful. You can only be wrong 3 times.
Oh, so if you'd be ripping them all game. That'd be crazy.
So if you challenge 10 times, like if you challenge 5 times and get all 5 right, then you've still got 3 more wrong ones that you can have.
I'm just saying that could be good. That system could be good because Phil Cousy, I'd see Phil Cousy at my job, like my other job. He'd be there. That he wouldn't be big league umpire at that point. He'd be insane. You have 1 challenge per thing.
Right. His games would be 3.5 hours long.
Yeah, you have like 28 challenges. All of them are successful. That'd be wild. That'd be great. I'm in.
All right, I got one food question for you. It's an Easter one because I know you love food questions. You a Peeps guy, Scott?
No, I don't think I've eaten a Peep in like 10 years.
Yeah, that's gross. My mom bought them for our kids, and I'm like, this is disgusting. Why are you putting this stuff in our house? That's the one food question we're getting. It's 11:30.
You wouldn't be like, oh, these are great. You just know. Jelly beans?
Like,
jelly bean guy?
What's that?
Jelly bean guy?
Super overrated, in my opinion. There's too many jelly bean flavors I don't like. Like Jelly Bellies are crazy to me. It's like half these flavors suck.
It's the bowl. It's the candy you just put in a dish in the middle of the room and you let it sit.
But it's like, then you got to pick through, and then you're like, oh, I like the red ones, but I don't like the cinnamon ones. So it's 50% chance I get one I like, and 50% I hate it. Buttered popcorn, like, get this crap out of here.
This dude's picking through the jelly bean bowl. I'm out. That'd be crazy. You sit there sifting through. Okay, all right.
What do? You just grab a whole handful of Jelly Bellies and throw them all in your mouth. Buttered popcorn, cinnamon, just mix it all together.
Like, there's ones that are like not Sour Patch Kids. There's ones that are like Starburst, and we've had those. Like, come on.
Oh yeah. I'm saying Jelly Belly, like the brand Jelly Belly. Yeah. Regular jelly beans, like Starburst jelly beans that are like just normal flavors, I'm totally good with. The Jelly Belly ones are the ones that blow my mind. Like, if you had a buttered popcorn flavored Jelly Belly, that's like a real flavor.
Vomit. Give me a break. I'm out. Yeah.
Have you had Jelly Bellies before? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I remember the gross ones. This is crazy.
Okay. Yeah. So I just wanted to make sure. Like, if we're talking Starburst jelly beans, where it's just Starburst flavors, yeah, I'm great with jelly beans. Throw them all in the mouth. It's great. Jelly Bellies is that's a different category to me. Yeah, like somebody says gummy bears by jelly beans. That's not even close. Gummy bears is like 10x jelly beans, right?
Yeah. I don't know, man. I'm out. I gotta go. I'm so tired.
Okay.
I'm so tired. Appreciate everybody.
Hey, thank you for joining, everybody. Again, Scott and I will be here on Tuesday nights. Friday, we are doing another live show. It'll be me and Anthony. That'll be a 2 p.m. game, 11:20 a.m. first pitch on Friday. So Anthony, I will be right here on the Dodger Blue channel. Content coming every single day. Of course, you could check out writing from folks like Scott and Blake and Matt over on DodgerBlue.com as well. That is Scott Geirman. I am Jeff Spiegel. Thank you for joining us live. Thank you for listening after the fact. Enjoy the rest of your night. Dodgers win 5-4. So, of course, we close with Go Dodgers.